Hey Atlanta, say hello to small business help from Apple. That's right, we're here to make starting and running your business simpler. From helping you choose the right devices to setting them up hassle-free, we can help you build your business in no time. Speak to a business expert and get the help you need at no cost whatsoever. At Apple, we're open for your small business. Go to apple.com/small business or visit an Apple store to learn more.
Kroger Delivery has one mission: to deliver the freshest food right to your door. That's why our drivers are pros. Our trucks are refrigerated. And when it comes to low prices, we always deliver. With $20 off your first order of $75 or more, there's no better time to get in on the action. Mission accomplished. Restrictions apply. See site for details.
Let's list out all the things that keep your heart rate high. Okay, so we'll have sex in a public place, parachute jumping,
unhinged,
running through the streets in a hospital gown with an erection.
Insane.
It was just relentless. I mean, it felt like a 90-minute panic attack to me, this film.
It kind of just picks you up and drags you along and throws you around a bit.
I do appreciate about this film that they don't bother to do any plot.
No?
Which I kind of respect. It's just kind of one big action set piece followed by another big action set piece. It's just like, this is what we're doing. We're doing it for 90 minutes. The end.
Hello and welcome. Joining Flixwatcher, we have Ellie.
Hi.
Rob.
Hello.
And Kobe.
How do?
And we're going to be discussing Crank. Thank you, as always, to the mighty people for the mighty, mighty tunes. And thanks to Ben from Rockwood Audio for his awesome editing skills.
Please do remember to write a review and rate us on Apple Podcasts and anywhere you can do where you listen to the podcast, because it really does help us.
And you can join in the conversation with us on Twitter
at FlixWatcherPod and on Instagram
at FlixWatcher. Hello film fans, welcome to Flixwatcher Podcast. Our guests today are Rob and Ellie. Over to you please, Ellie, to say hello and tell the listeners about your podcast.
Hi, thanks for having us. So me and Rob are from KVIKMYNDAPOD, which is basically an Icelandic cinema podcast. So we look at Icelandic films from the 21st century. And at the moment, we're looking at films that are coming out in the cinemas in the UK. So that's exciting. But we also look back at some of the best films from the last 20 years or so in Iceland, which is a surprisingly rich vein for such a small country. Rob's our kind of resident Icelandic expert. I'm our resident Icelandic newbie, know nothing. And so we kind of work from that basis. And I've just been amazed to find out how much good cinema has come out of one tiny country with such a small population. The quality is pretty insane, isn't it, Rob?
It's banging.
You've also had some pretty cool guests on as well. More recently, the director of My Year of Dicks.
Yeah, we have interviewed a couple of Icelandic directors now. And most recently, Sara Gunnarsdóttir, who was nominated for an Oscar, as I said, obviously. And that was for, the short film My Year of Dicks, which absolutely should have won short film, best animated short film. But didn't, but we absolutely loved it.
What else was it up against?
It was up against, the winner was the boy, the horse, the fox, the mole, the Charlie
I quite enjoyed that. What's it over Christmas?
But it was also up against a short film called Ice Merchants, which was sound designed by my school friend who got to go to the Oscars, which is pretty crazy.
Oh, wow.
That's very cool.
So I had two horses in that race.
Did he get a goodie bag?
Yes, but I haven't heard what was in it yet. I'm yet to get the full debrief. That was everybody's number one question. What's in the goodie bag?
That's generally one of my life goals, is to go to the Oscars and get a goodie bag.
Apparently tried to get into Elton John's party and failed. That was the highlight of the evening.
And who are you exactly? I did the sound design for a short animation. Obviously, that's great still.
Yeah. And you'd think Elton would be well up for something sound-wise.
Well, whenever you find out what's in the goodie bag, because especially like thousands of dollars worth of swag, isn't it? Basically,
I'll report back.
Yeah, please do. I mean, when you say Icelandic cinema, it hasn't really permeated to me. I don't know if it's a general thing, but like Norwegian, Danish. I'm obviously looking at the other Nordic countries here. Maybe not so much Finnish, but they have. There seems to be a rich scene that we get a bit more of it, or I receive a bit more of it at least. Is that fair?
That's very fair.
Have I just been looking in the wrong place? Yeah.
No, I think you're right. Certainly, I was far more aware of Scandi films rather than the Nordic, Finland and Iceland, but we're getting more and more. I went on a date once to see Jar City. That was my very first Icelandic film in the UK. They don't come around that often, certainly not the cinema, although we are about to do an episode on a film called Godland, which is the most cinematic thing you'll see all year. And that is being released at the cinemas. So more and more stuff is coming. And there's some stuff on the streaming platforms. A lot of what we covered is sort of buy or rent, really. Yeah. And distributors they're not they're too small. They can't get themselves out over here. So if someone wants to help me set up a film distribution company for Icelandic films, I'd be well up for that.
Well, we've had a chap who was helping to distribute Korean films, or was it Japanese films?
Oh, cool.
Benji, I can't remember what the name was. We can connect you. You might have some tips for you to help
that'd be
distribute them out.
Amazing.
Yeah, and did he bring on Satoshi Kon? That was a Satoshi Kon film.
The Tokyo Godfathers.
Tokyo Godfathers, yeah. So if you listen to that episode, that's one of them. So it might be a person to connect you with, and he might be able to give you some tips as to how to do that. Here we go, matchmaking on the podcast. But here to talk about films. This film this week is your choice, Rob. Can you tell us first of all what it is, why it is, and you have 60 seconds or less before you lose all your adrenaline and die, or for the synopsis, whichever comes first.
Okay, so am I being timed now, or do I get to introduce why?
You get to introduce it and why.
Phew. So we are going to talk about Crank, which is the Jason Statham movie from 2006. Why did I choose this? Recently, I saw it pop up on Netflix and I was like, oh, I did watch Gamer, which is a film by the same directors recently, which is a mad film, utterly bonkers. And I thought, well, maybe Crank is still that and still as exciting as it was when I saw it at 18. So, I mean, that's it, really. I just wanted to see how mad it was.
Sure, fair play. And the synopsis timer starts now.
Now, I should be able to do this pretty quick. Jason Statham plays Chev Chelios, a superstar hitman who wakes up one day to find out he's been poisoned and will die within the hour. Unless, that is, he finds a way to keep his heart beating super fast and the adrenaline flowing. What follows is a lot. Chelios wants revenge and to keep going until he gets it. Cue 88 minutes of unhinged action, stunts, stimulants, and filming styles. How was that? How much time do I have?
That's great.
It's good.
Yeah, well, you have 30 seconds left. Thank you very much.
Time.
Ellie and Helen, have you seen Crank before? Have you heard of Crank before?
I'd heard of it. I'd never seen it. I'd actually probably only ever seen one Jason Statham film, which is that one Spy.
Oh, that's a good one.
So
yeah.
I think this is my second ever Jason Statham film.
So you missed all of the Lock, Stock and Snatch?
Yeah.
Seriously?
Out for all of that, yeah. I've gone about as far as layer cake into the Guy Ritchie genre.
Sorry. So okay, so how is it for your second Jason Statham film?
So I'm all for silly all-out action. So I really appreciated a slice of silly all-out action. I mean, Jason Statham, he does what he does. And don't expect any more or any less from him, because that's what you're going to get here. I liked that it didn't take itself very seriously. It was obviously very fast-paced. It felt like a 90-minute panic attack to me, this film. It was just relentless. The shots, the pace, the music, everything. I guess where I felt disappointed, I guess is the word for this film, is that seam of like nastiness that is like the 2000s nastiness that runs under it, which I kind of forgot existed as a cultural thing. But, you know, like lazy stereotypes, women are not portrayed well, homophobia, the kind of underseam of that was just a shame. It's like a product of the time type of thing. But there was just a silly, fun action film in there. And that, for me, just undermined it a bit. Left a bit of a bitter taste in my mouth. But I loved the set pieces. And I was swept along by the silliness of it. Especially the hospital sequence. I really enjoyed. And obviously the stupidity of the premise, which is just speed, but for a man's heart.
Helen?
I saw this at the cinema. I've seen it a few times. Not recently, though. So when you picked it, I was very much like, yeah, I wonder how this is going to have aged. And yeah, I mean, everything you've said, it wasn't really acceptable then, and it's definitely not acceptable now. But it is, to quote our editor, insanely stupid, and there is a lot of fun in it. And I was just kind of thinking, like, when it came out in 2006, I think action had probably been like a little bit stale, and it was kind of like a little bit bloated. And here just came this completely mad, stupid film with Jason Statham, the English bold guy in it, playing this kind of like insanely named Chev Chelios character. And it just kind of like blew my tiny mind then. And I think you can kind of see its like influence in like the likes of like Deadpool and that kind of thing. And like definitely like the Safdie brothers as well. Like there's bits and like the influence in like Good Time and like that kind of feeling of having like a panic attack while you're watching a film. So it was kind of fun to see a Nokia phone as well. That aged it quite a lot. I was like, oh wow, it is that old. Aside of all like the kind of like, oh yeah, we don't have that now in film. I think it's still a lot of fun, and yeah, it's just a bit nuts, isn't it?
Where do you guys sit with the Stath as an entity, as an action star, as an actor generally? I guess Ellie, perhaps not so much of a fan because you haven't.
No, I like the Stath. I like the Stath.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure I'd call him an actor. I think that's a bit generous. But as an action star, I think he's very charismatic, and he never takes himself very seriously. Like unlike someone like Sylvester Stallone or whatever, who clearly takes himself really seriously. I think what I like about Jason Statham is there's always like a knowing silliness to him. Yeah, I like him.
I think this is where that started, though. Like, because he had been quite serious, especially in the Guy Ritchie stuff. And to see him sort of break from those shackles and attempt a bit of humour. Okay, some of it is quite offensive in this, but he does have some good one-liners. And I wouldn't say I'm like a Statham super fan, but he's always good value. He's great at action. He knows how to hold a gun. He knows how to hold a hand that's holding a gun. And yeah, he's generally, his action films tend to be just good, solid films. Whereas this one is just utterly bonkers, like just guerrilla filmmaking, unhinged, insane. So yeah, I like the Stath.
So this film, I think it was what kind of brought him to the front, to kind of mainstream, because he was in The One with Jet Li, which we reviewed, like possibly our second ever film.
Wow.
And that one he tried to put on an American accent, and it was not a good idea.
I can't remember he was in that. That's really bad, isn't it? I'm like, who's in that?
He's definitely, he did some like weird accent, which just like, I think that after that, we'll hire you, but just don't. Just do a Sean Connery and just be the same accent each time.
He's got
Don't
a
worry
great
about it. We'll
voice.
sort it out.
He's got a great voice. Doesn't match the name Chev Chelios, but that's fine.
Well, you know, he's grown up in, you know, his parents are from somewhere in Latin America, and they moved across to London when they were young. That's okay. How you explain it away. I don't know. Chev Chelios is a Spanish name or Ukrainian. I don't know where it comes from, but yeah, it doesn't really match his. But yeah, I don't 100% get the Statham. I've got nothing against him, but you know, his line delivery sometimes are like seem a bit weird. He's a good action star, but also not the best action star. But I'm also like rooting for him each time because I'm like, yeah, fair play, mate. People seem to absolutely love you. Like, keep doing what you're doing. And this one, I can see why it kind of broke the, like I said, I think it's a good way to say it, break the shackles of Guy Ritchie. I think I did actually prefer him in the Guy Ritchie films. I think I preferred him a bit more like restrained and like taking the mick out of, the Germans, like, like he did in Snatch. So I was really surprised when he turned out to be this action star, even though I knew he was really athletic because he did that somersault in Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels, and he used to be a diver, didn't he? So I knew he had the kind of the body and movement capacity to do it, but I would never have guessed he'd be an action star, which he's turned out to be, and is him, Jet Li, Sylvester Stallone, Dolph Lundgren, Terry Crews in the same film, and no one's batting an eyelid that he's there. You know what I mean? It's like, fine, sure. He's one of the greatest action stars. It's insanely silly, this film. Crazy silly. It kind of just picks you up and drags you along and throws you around a bit, and you can't really stop. And some scenes are nonsense. Some scenes are utter nonsense. But you just kind of go with it, don't you?
It's true. I found, like, and later we'll talk about rewatchability. I watched this twice before we had our chat, because I couldn't remember a single thing that happened in the first watch. It just flies along so fast. I was like, what? I can't even picture a scene. I can remember him doing stunts now. Some great diving off the motorbike, which he apparently did all the stunts himself, which is pretty
really
amazing.
Even the motorbike ones?
Yeah, I think so.
Wow.
But yeah, it is bonkers. I love it for that.
Well, if he did the stunts himself...
You're going to give him some extra points.
No. This is probably a large reason why he became the action star, because, in the Hollywood circles, if you're working with someone and they just do the business, this is why, like, Tom Cruise is, I never used to like him, but now, I really do respect him because he does a lot of the stuff and he really supports the other people. But yeah, so if he did the stunts and he's just there on set and really present, I can understand why he's been recommended to the next film and the next film and the next film, and people just like working with him. And I can imagine he's a really sound guy to hang around and have some good crack with. But yeah, fair play.
I do appreciate about this film that, like, the synopsis of it is a man has to keep his heart rate up or he'll die, and they just don't bother to do any plot.
No.
Apart from that, which I kind of respect. It's like, it's just kind of one big set piece, one big action set piece, followed by another big action set piece with no attempt to kind of like develop a narrative around it. It's just like, this is what we're doing it for 90 minutes, the end.
It's probably like just that they got together, let's list out all the things that keep your heart rate high. Okay, so we'll have sex in a public place, parachute jumping, riding a motorbike, running through the street in a hospital gown with an erection. That's got to keep your heart rate high. And just, let's make a film out of those. Let's make a film out of this list, guys.
It is a great list of things, isn't it? Like one of my things, I just wanted to read a list of the stimulants. Like this film, he's just like, right, I need to stay alive. What can I do? And you've just listed half of them there, Kobe. But the other half,
and Helen
like,
said the other half, drugs.
Drugs, yeah, like many different drugs. But like
Nasal spray.
Who'd have thought? Who'd have thought a nasal spray? Thanks, Chester Bennington.
Mr.
Was that
Linkin
Chester
Park.
Bennington?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Was that
Mr.
Chester
Linkin
Ben-
Park.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, R.I.P.
Quite.
I just know him from Screaming on MTV2 when I used to watch that a lot. So in out of context, it didn't make any sense. I didn't know. I couldn't have placed him.
Fair enough. Good supporting cast popping up everywhere. When he's defibbing, Glenn Howerton from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia there, which was pretty cool to see.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, obviously there's no logic to this film, so I'm not sure what a defibrillator would do to a perfectly fine heart. Well, it's obviously not fine, but one that's beating anyway.
One of the things I hated the most was the shots that went like through his chest, and then a CGI beating heart was in there. That made me
that
feel
pigeon
really,
one, didn't we?
Yeah, made me feel really uncomfortable.
We talked, Ellie, you mentioned about the early noughties of it all, and Amy Smart was a key proponent of some of these early noughties films. As, hey, you'll turn up and you'll get naked-ish, and then we'll kind of not give you anything to do, and then off you go.
Yeah.
Type piece, and that was I didn't know she was in this, and as soon as I saw it, I was like, oh, no, I know what's going to happen.
I'd love to see a remake of this from now and see like how they how they would come up with different things that would perhaps not be like so offensive. It'd be interesting.
They'd still get Jason Statham to play him. They could do like contemporary actors, but yeah, he looks the same.
That's true.
Yeah, it's a shame about Amy Smart, because she was kind of a girl of the moment, and she didn't really end up doing much after this. And there was a sequel as well, which I have seen, but I can't really remember much. But I think it's a little bit disappointing that they did make a sequel, because
so he survived falling out of a plane.
Yeah, and the premise for the second one just was, I think it was just basically he just did loads of stupid stuff to keep his heart going.
It was like a mechanical heart or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Still a lot of fun.
But not as fun, I don't think. But yeah, you can't have everything, can you?
Well, they tried with this film. They tried to put everything into it.
But they did it so well. Like, it could easily have been, oh, let's make it 2 hours long. But they didn't. They managed to keep it for that nice 88 minutes.
Just going back to Amy Smart's side, she's one of those. She's alongside like all the girls, all the female actors in American Pie, for example. Apart from Alison Hannigan, who had a career beforehand and seems to be doing stuff afterwards. The Shannon Elizabeth kind of thing. So there was that kind of that period of time where lady turns up, does a thing with less clothes, and you need to do the thing, and then maybe come in the sequel, and then off you go. But hey, I don't know.
As an 18-year-old,
we'll do better, guys.
Sorry,
it was fine. It was great. Yeah, as an 18-year-old, it's like I'm going to see American Pie like once a week for the rest of my life, and then one day I just get to the end and think, this is stupid.
No need.
Is there anything else guys want to say before we head to the scores?
Oh, I have to do a shout out for that absolutely terrible CGI when they're falling out the plane. What was going on there? It can't be that hard. There's a lot of other stuff in this which presumably is CGI'd, but that was so bad.
You said he did his own stunts on that green screen.
It's true. I mean, he did hang out of a helicopter. He obviously
that was very real.
Yeah, that was real. The falling towards the.
I'd like to know the behind the scenes to that helicopter scene. Actually, I'll be interested to know how they did. I'm sure obviously there's harnesses involved and stuff, but that looks too real. Yeah, cross reference with because you had the helicopter scene and then you had the parachute thing, and I thought, okay, they've done something which I've rarely seen in film, and parachutes stuff, skydiving, you see all the time in film, and it tends to be a real person, but this was really bad. And we've had Point Break on where we've seen Patrick Swayze do actually in the air next to Keanu Reeves, who wasn't in the air, and that was quite a contrast. But this just looked the worst.
I kind of get the impression that it's meant to be a little bit like that, because obviously their budget wouldn't have been huge, and I think it kind of fits that tongue-in-cheekness.
Yeah.
I think that was a lot of the charm of the film as well, because it looks like a lot of it was shot on a GoPro. And inside the
Google
car
Maps
and
zoom
stuff.
in with the copyrighted Google Maps.
Well, this is one of the things I was going to say when we get to small screen ability. But like, my favourite thing about this film...
That's not a word.
I'm quite good at making it up because my brain functions differently on podcasts for some reason. But like this film, for me, one of the standout things is this is 2006. This is like the dawn of digital filmmaking. At least sort of handheld digital filmmaking. So there was no budget here. They bought a bunch of cheap cameras and then they just went and shot things the way they wanted and could to keep things moving. Like, this is the most fast-paced kinetic film, and the filmmaking does that too. Like, apparently, so the directors both were their own DOPs, so they operated the cameras themselves. They were often on skates alongside the action. Like, it's mad. Okay. And the freedom you get with digital filmmaking is amazing. Just unfortunately, in 2006, it all looked a bit shit. But I really like that about this film. It's like it's literally shoving all kinds of things at the screen. It's like, shonky digital. Then you've got quite a nice wide shot. Then you're on CCTV. You've got the Google Maps, like you said, Helen. Then you've got random bits where another scene is playing on a wall. You've got everything you could possibly think of is shoved in here. Shot from between the legs. It is mad.
It's like drinking a massive slush puppy that's like blue and yellow and pink. like a big liter of slush puppy all in one, and the brain freeze that you get from it. That is like this film.
In that slush puppy, have you maintained the layers, or have you got them together, mashed them up together, so it just becomes like a browny purpley sludge? What's happening there?
That's a good point.
In this, I think they're all separate just to give extra pops of chaos.
Brain freeze. Get brain freeze. That'll sort you out for another 5 minutes. Okay, with that, guys, let's head to the scores.
I'm Sam Clements, host of the 90 Minutes or Less Film Festival, another podcast in the Stripped Media family, a podcast that celebrates movies under 90 minutes long. Each episode, I'm joined by a special guest who selects a movie to join our prestigious lineup. Past guests have included fellow Stripped Media family members Martin and Sam from Song by Song, and Kobe from Flixwatcher, and Dave from The Wire Stripped. Search for us now on the app you're currently listening to this podcast, or join us at 90minfilmfest.com.
So welcome to the Flixwatcher scores. All of the scores are out of 5. You can have decimal places if you wish. And we'll start with you, please, Rob, with your recommendability.
Yeah, I do really enjoy this film, and I want people to watch it and have a good time. Like we discussed, there is a bit of offensive stuff running throughout, so it's quite hard to say, yes, you should watch this without a caveat. The caveat of, yeah, all the stuff you mentioned at the top, Ellie. But I reckon it's a definite, like, for a pure fun action film, 4.5.
Wow. Ellie?
Well, I was gonna basically say exactly the same as Rob there, that it's a recommend, but with a caveat that it hasn't aged well. And as you say, Helen, maybe was never that great for its age anyway. But so I'm going to give it, on that note, a 3.5. I
thought going into this recording, you were going to pan this, Ellie, but you seem to have rallied around it a bit more than I thought. Helen?
It's kind of like the Monster / Red Bull of films, isn't it? It is that in 88 minutes. I honestly
didn't he buy a ton of Monster at one point? Did I
definitely bought some energy drinks.
It was definitely Red Bull. Yeah, and some weird unknown brand, and caned it. I was just like watching it going, whoa, like, not for me. Weirdly, I thought my friend Simon would be into this, and he was like, absolutely not, no, ridiculous. And I was like, what? So that's kind of like, yeah, so maybe it's not as easy to recommend as maybe I thought it was. But that said, if you can kind of take it for what it is, and it is completely stupid, then I think you will have a lot of fun, and just obviously be prepared that there's some bits that you're just going to be like, no, that wasn't, no. So I'm going to give it a very solid 4.
Wow. I'm going to be the lowest scoring. I'm going to go for 3.1. I've never seen this before. I'd always known about it, and it's always been How Did This Get Made podcasts where I learn actually Crank's name, and they keep on talking about it as a film. I don't know if they've actually done it as an episode, but I will go back and listen to the podcast feed to see if it was. It's one of those films where I was just like, oh, I get the idea, but also it sounds ridiculous, and every clip I'd seen of it didn't endear it to me. But I think lots of people absolutely madly love it. And I can understand why lots of people absolutely madly love it, in the same way lots of people absolutely madly love early Peter Jackson, Bad Taste and stuff like that, because there's that kind of gung-ho nature to the filmmaking and stuff like that. But for me, I just said, look, there's probably better films out there. So yeah, 3.1.
Better films?
No way.
Better films than this? This is like the king of its genre. There are better films about keeping your heart alive. Batshit crazy.
Is that a category in Letterboxd? Films, or like a playlist?
I don't know. Maybe you just had to be there in 2006 and were just a bit kind of bored of what action films were and what films were, and this silly little film came along and did loads of weird things with cameras, and you just thought, yeah, why not? It's great.
Yeah.
Repeat viewing score, Rob.
Yep. I'm gonna go 3.9. I watched it a couple of times, and I did enjoy it both times, but it's a lot, and it's like takes quite a lot out of you. And some of the dialogue is atrocious. So I wouldn't be running back to watch it again this year, but I could see myself every few years grabbing a couple of beers. So yeah, 3 point whatever I said, 3.8.
3.8, sure. Ellie.
I'm going to go for 2.9. I don't need this level of stress in my life, to be honest. And especially not for 90 minutes at a pop. So I won't probably be returning to it anytime soon.
Helen.
Yeah, I've seen it a few times. I have to say I haven't seen it for a long time since. So I was like, oh, am I still going to feel the same? And yeah, I think I did. I had a great time. Am I going to watch it again soon? Probably not. So I'm going to give 3.5. I mean, it's 88 minutes. It's very short. And I mean, I kind of like those anxiety-inducing films. I find them quite fun.
Yeah, well, that's the Safdie brothers all over, isn't it?
I'm going to go for 2. I might watch it again. I can't tell you when that might be. But because it's 88 minutes long, you know, it might be one of those things where I just put it on and I lie on the sofa and expecting to fall asleep at any point from the moment I press play till, 88 minutes later on. I think that's the kind of thing, and I wouldn't really mind if I miss any of it. So yeah, 2. Small screen score, Rob.
It is bonkers to look at, and it's not designed... Well, it's certainly not shot for the big screen, so small screen is key here, I think. And like I said, it uses so many different styles. I wouldn't want to see it on a much bigger screen than I've got at home, which is where it feels right. It was massive on DVD, so I'm sure there's plenty of people who would agree. So I'm going to go high again and say 4.5. And that's not just because I'm trying to make my pick really high.
No, but we have it quite a lot where films that... don't want to say that they're bad, but they're fine on Netflix. Mm-hmm. So that gets a high score for small screen score. Raging Bull, I'm sure would get quite good results for everything else, but a small screen score
not so much.
Would be quite low. So
fair.
Ellie.
See, I'm going to disagree here. I'm going to give it a 2.5 because I think, having said I don't need any more stress in my life, if you want to watch this, surely you want the full frontal, pour it into your eyeballs, stress-inducing level of intensity, which I think you only get from a cinema. You want to hear that CGI heart pumping in surround sound, don't you? So
I'm sure they were able to record it in surround sound.
So I'm going to say 2.5. I think it should be seen on the big screen.
I think this would be quite a popular one at the Prince Charles Cinema. Crank 1 and Crank 2, I'm sure would be a good kind of double bill that people go to see.
I imagine it'd be great with an audience who were on board,
all into it,
gonna laugh, gonna shout, gonna scream. That's to me where this seems best placed.
Helen.
Exactly that. So I think I probably did buy this on DVD. It was that kind of DVD that you ended up having. So having seen it both on the big and at home, I think it works fine at home just because the kind of the digitalness of it is definitely aging it a lot quicker, as quick as the Nokia being in it.
Grainy. Grainy.
But it's part of its charm. But I think if you have the opportunity to at least watch it with company, I think necessarily the big screenness is not too big and it might be a bit like this looks shit, but with more people is definitely the kind of fun way to go because it is just so silly. So I'm going to give it a 4.
I'm going to give it a 5. Why not? I think it'd be quite fun in the cinema with a bunch of other people who are properly into it in the same way that people love The Room or Room. No, but The Room. I can't remember which one's one.
Room.
The Room. You both said different ones there.
Not the really depressing one.
Not the really depressing one, the really, really stupid one. That's stupider than this film. So, yeah, 5. I think I watch on my laptop, on my iPad. It's fine. Engagement score. Rob.
It's a tricky one, engagement score. Was I engaged? Kind of. I've sort of just letting it, like Ellie said, just letting it just fly into my eyes. But I wasn't paying that much attention. I couldn't pay that much attention to it. So I'm going to go I'm going to go 3, because it's quite easy to, I think it would be quite easy to just look away and look back. And you've not really missed a lot. You probably have missed a lot.
Yeah, but you've missed everything at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. It's not going to matter, is it? So yeah, 3.
Ellie.
I'm going to give it a 1.8 because you don't, as Rob says, you don't need to have any idea what's happening, because all that's happening is he's got to keep his heart rate high. You can look away, someone's been shot, look back, someone else is being shot, all fine. Yeah.
Helen.
Brutal on these engagement scores. I'm going to go 4. It's a little bit lower than the first time I watched it, just because I was like, oh yeah, I know what's coming up. But like, if you're looking away, you're just going to miss something really, really stupid, and you can kind of like work out where it's going for sure. But like, do you want to miss like some stupid gory bits with someone's hand? Like, do you want to miss some weird stuff with a pigeon? Like, do you want to miss the tourist reaction to people having sex on the street? This is the kind of stuff you're going to miss if you're not 100% engaged.
I thought because they went back to the people who witnessed the public sex scene, didn't they? And they're like, oh my God, I was so like turned on by it. I'm like, what is happening in this film? Yeah, so 4, Helen.
Yeah.
2.
What?
No, it's more than 2. I think I was just kind of like, really? Each time. Really? Is this happening again? Gives us an overall score of 3.38125. We did mention Letterboxd before, actually, and we should say we've got a Letterboxd account. Keep forgetting to talk about it. And also want to shout out to 2 people, well, 2.5 people who have done a better job maintaining the list of films we've talked about than we are doing. So there's a guy called Johnny Moore and John Hull, who've both been tracking our films for a while. So thank you very much, guys, for doing that. It's really nice of you to do so. But
great,
we are
going...
Yeah, no. And we are at Flix. We just type in Flixwatcher. Go to Letterboxd, type in Flixwatcher, find us there, and say hello. I don't know. Can you say hello on Letterboxd? Is it that kind of thing?
You can send a message. It's a bit weird, but yeah, you can agree or disagree. You can even send us your review there if you missed out on doing it at the time. We love hearing your thoughts as well.
What a great idea. Rob, Ellie, can you tell us where we can find your podcast? Spell it out one last time and say goodbye to the listeners.
Yes, we can be found as a podcast, KVIKMYNDAPOD, on Twitter and Instagram at KVIKMYNDAPOD. That's KVIKMYNDAPOD. And we're across all podcast platforms. I'm at RobWatts88 on Instagram and Twitter too, and on Letterboxd, where one of our lovely listeners has actually set up a list of all the films we've covered, which is very nice. So you can get stuck in there, and please let me know what you think of anything you've watched from our podcast too.
Are you on Letterboxd as KVIKMYNDAPOD?
No, we don't have I don't have a podcast one. I have the KVIKMYNDAPOD list, and so does another listener, which is very nice. Probably better updated than mine as well.
I'm on Letterboxd now. Man types stuff into internet on podcast.
Thrilling.
Gotcha. Jesse Onland is the chap who's tracking your films.
Oh, well, thank you very much.
Guys, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you very much for bringing Crank to me. I don't think I would have seen it had it not been for this. And this is why I do the podcast. You've never seen it
before. I'm shocked.
Well, stranger things have happened.
Revelation.
All right, guys.
Thanks for coming on.
Bye.
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 Enjoyed this episode of Flixwatcher podcast? Why not leave us a 5-star review on iTunes? You can also follow us at FlixWatcherPod on Twitter, and we're at FlixWatcher on Instagram. Thanks as always to the mighty people for their mighty, mighty tunes, and Rockwood Audio's editing skills. If you're looking to get your podcast edited as sweet as this, get in touch with Rockwood, ROKK Wood Audio. Tell them Flixwatcher sent you.
You just heard a Stripped Media production.